What's up, Packer fans? I'm Narad Chapik, host of Porn Alert Packers podcast. Thank you for being here, and thank you for checking out the video. I want to break down my top 5 biggest question marks heading into the 2020 season with training camp slowly starting up. I mean, we're taking temperatures, we're testing for COVID, but we have not officially had like a full practice. So I've got some question marks heading into the upcoming season, and I want to share them with you. I have a who, what, when, where, and why. Yes, I count weird on my fingers, but without further ado, it is time to pour ourselves another Packers podcast. All right, so as I said before we headed into the intro, it's been just a really odd first week or so of training camp or whatever they are calling this acclimation period with the NFL. As you are aware, may not be aware, they had 4 days of straight testing for players to make sure that negative results came back before they came to the facilities. Now they are in the facilities. They're starting to interview players. They're starting to interview coaches. I'm going to dive into more of that stuff and some weekly updates this Friday. But for right now, I've got a bunch of question marks, and some pertain to training camp, some pertain to the upcoming season, and I wanted to challenge myself a little bit with the who, what, when, where, and why type of questions, rather than the articles and comments and things that you just see all over the internet. So I want to be a little bit more creative. But before we get started, if you have not subscribed and you are a fan of the content, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button and get all of your Packers content when it pops at the latest. Hit that little bell notification, and then you'll get notifications as soon as they go live. Trying to get more and more consistent, but I've had a hell of a week. I have a hell of a life going right now, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Packers. So first question, who is going to be or step forward as that number 2 wide receiver? That is probably the biggest question and the most common question. But of course, Davante Adams is a premier wide receiver in the NFL. Some would take him as a top 5 receiver. Some would take him for sure as a top 10 receiver. And some might even take him as a top 2 receiver. But 37 wide receivers were drafted in the 2020 NFL draft. Of course, none of them were taken by Green Bay. And currently 10 receivers are on the Packers roster before they have to cut that roster down to 80 players. Now, in case you missed it, Devin Funchess, the only wide receiver that we went out and grabbed this offseason, who probably would have been a clear-cut option for the number 2 wide receiver, at least fought for the position, was the one and only, thankfully, the one and only Packers player that has currently opted out of the upcoming season. So outside of that, our top contenders are Allen Lazard, who was stepping up big for us last year. I watched a replay of the NFC Championship game, and he had some big catches in that game. You have Reggie Begelton, was a Canadian Football League top prospect that we picked up late last season that is coming on into his first year in the NFL. Equanimeous St. Brown is coming from a season-ending injury that kept him on the IR all last season, so that's an exciting under-the-radar type of player. And then we look at guys like MVS, Jay Kumaro, Darius Shepard. They will all be fighting for a roster spot, and at least one of these guys, if not 2 of these guys, will make the roster moving forward. But it's really just a huge question mark. If somebody, and I'm really worried about going into this topic, just because it's something that just going to shadow the entire season. But let's say, heaven forbid, Adams gets injured or he catches corona and has to miss a week of football. What do we have for talent behind him? Who's going to step up? Again, if I was a betting man, I would bet on Allen Lazard to be that guy, but we definitely need to find more depth in that wide receiving room. I personally would love to see them go out and grab someone else that wants to play football this upcoming season. But outside of just the fact of wide receivers, I really want to make a point that they do have talent in the tight end group, and there's no standout slot wide receiver on the Packers roster, and I don't think Matt LaFleur necessarily cares. They're loaded at the tight end position, and I expect to see a 2 tight end set pretty much 80% of the time this upcoming season. And God forbid, like I said, if Adams goes down with an injury or something, Rodgers needs guys to step forward. preseason games last year made a Darius Shepard step out, made an Alan Lazard step out. We don't have the luxury of that this season. So these practices are going to be really crucial. And these guys bringing it to practice every single day and earning Rodgers' trust is going to be absolutely crucial. Who steps up as the wide receiver number 2? That's one of my biggest questions. What is my next topic? So what did Green Bay do to improve their run defense? So like I said, I watched that last game against San Francisco, or their final game of the season, quite frankly. It wasn't very pretty. The Packers' run defense gave up the 10th most rushing yards in 2019. And in that NFC Championship game, Mostert ran for 220 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, and Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times. 8 times! Are you kidding me? I'm still not over it. I feel like I'm going to be over it, but I'm not over it quite yet. But once again, Green Bay did not do much in the draft to address the run. 2 of our biggest weaknesses, wide receiver and stopping the run, did not get addressed in the NFL draft. Outside of the 242nd pick, 7th round pick, defensive end from Miami. I'm not even going to say his name because, quite frankly, I don't think it really matters right now. But Green Bay, you look at a guy like Kenny Clark. He's coming into the final year of his rookie contract. It's actually a 5th-year option season right now. We'll see what happens with him if they decide to sign him. You look at a guy like Kingsley Keke, who had moments throughout the year last year. He's coming into his 2nd year. Montravius Adams could be one of those up-and-coming, more improved players year over year after having a full season now under his belt after taking his rookie season off. And I don't really look at Dean Lowry or Tyler Lancaster as true run stoppers, but away from the defensive line, you also have maybe some additions or an improvement in middle linebacker with the addition of Christian Kirksey, who I do honestly think is an improvement over Blake Martinez. I think that he is a more accurate run-stuffing kind of middle linebacker, but there's a lot of pressure beside him. Who's going to be that second linebacker? You have Oren Burks, Ty Summers, Kamal Martin, a rookie that they picked up in the draft, or anyone else. Quite frankly, how are they going to stop the run? What are they going to do to stop the run? What is the question on this one? And rumors started flying around to a point. And I'm not giving up on these rumors. I don't usually buy into the rumors, like the Antonio Brown garbage that floated around all last season. I didn't buy into it. The Odell Beckham moments of early, like last season, didn't buy into any of that. But I got really excited about this idea that Everson Griffin and the Packers have a mutual interest with one another, that I actually went out and I already made my clip art of welcome to Green Bay, Everson Griffin. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I feel like this one could happen. And yes, he's not a true run-stopping type of player. He is more of a pass rusher, and we have lots of pass rushing defensive players all over our defense. But bringing a guy like that could create a whole lot of, or could solve a whole lot of problems along that defensive line. Even though he's not a true run stopper, another Pro Bowler like Griffin, he excels. It would be absolutely awesome. But what did the Green Bay do? Gutekunst seems to be very confident that they're going to figure this one out without bringing out a whole lot of talent or bringing in a whole lot of talent. I'm still scratching my head on that one. What did Green Bay do to improve the defense? Next question: when will the offense start firing on all cylinders? So I don't have a ton of notes on this particular topic. I didn't want to break down statistics and rankings and everything like I did with that defense just a moment ago. But there were moments throughout last season where the Packers offense looked really good. But the topic throughout the entire year, and it doesn't seem like that long ago because it wasn't, but that offense did not look sharp for most of the year. And I think a lot of it had to do with Aaron Rodgers. They were wondering what was wrong with Aaron Rodgers. Some of his passes were overthrown. I mean, you look at a guy like Aaron Jones, who really propelled himself. I'm going to talk about more about him very soon, but he propelled himself to one of the top running backs in the league, the 33rd best player in the top 100 NFL ranking list by the players. So that side looks really good, but there were just moments of frustration that they couldn't get things going. You definitely saw it in the first half against the 49ers in the final game last year. When Adams went down, you didn't have that true number 2 wide receiver, so you were struggling with that portion of it. Will the offense be able to enter week 1 against the Vikings firing on all cylinders, or is this something that we're going to perpetually watch progress throughout the season? It's Matt LaFleur's second season as the head coach in Green Bay, as the offensive coordinator. It's his second year with Rodgers. you have to think, even though they haven't had the OTAs, they've had a lot of virtual meetings. These players have had the mental side of the playbook figured out. Be very interesting to see what happens when these guys hit the field in training camp, and it'll be more interesting to see how long it takes them to look like a high-powered offense, because I think the pieces are there. I think they have some talent along that offensive line. There's a little bit of a question mark on that right tackle spot where Brian Bulaga left, but you look at the talent in running backs, again, I'm going to get there in a second, and then you look at Adams as a top receiver. There's talent in some of the other guys, or potential talent in some of those other guys, and the tight end group is loaded. I like what our offense can do. I love what our defense can do. I'm just getting excited about football, but I think this team could be pretty darn good this season, but they have to start firing on all cylinders. They can't take their time. They can't be a one-half team. They can't be a first-half team. They have to figure it out. So when will the offense start firing on all cylinders? So we've had the who, what, when. Now we're going to talk about the where, and that is, where will AJ Dillon fit into that running back rotation? So of the 343 rushing attempts in 2019, Aaron Jones took 69% of those carries, and Jones finished the season, of course, with a little over 1,000 yards rushing, 474 passing yards, and with 4 touchdowns to go along with that, and a total of 19 total team touchdowns, not including what happened inside the playoffs. So like Kenny Clark, Jones is coming into the final year of his rookie contract. Obviously, I'd love to see a guy like Aaron Jones stick around for a very long time. I'd love to see both these guys sign long-term contracts, but it's very possible that Green Bay takes a wait-and-see approach to this 2020 season and see if Aaron Jones can duplicate what he did in 2019 in the upcoming season. Jamal Williams could be re-signed at a very much cheaper price than Aaron Jones. Dexter Williams is the Packers' 6th-round draft pick from 2019, who's coming into his 2nd season. I am actually excited to see what he possibly does this year. Could show improvement year over year. And then you have a guy like Tyler Ervin. I think that made the roster solely for his special or he will make the roster solely for his special teams abilities. I think he's a running back that you keep on that roster. But Matt LaFleur isn't shy about drafting or bringing in running backs. He loves to have a loaded running back room. Even with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, even with a guy like Jordan Love, he loves to have his running backs, no pun intended. But then we are left with AJ Dillon. And Dillon was Green Bay's 62nd overall pick in the 2nd round of April's draft, and my vote for the most likely player to get playing time in the upcoming season. We're looking at Love. You're riding the bench. You're going to have to learn. You can get comfortable with that bench. For as far as I'm concerned, or as long as I'm concerned, be comfortable on that bench until Rodgers decides he doesn't want to stand anymore and he wants to sit on the bench. And that means retirement. But I'm going off of a sidetrack. He's the guy. AJ Dillon is the one that I think that will have the biggest impact on the team this year. The man is 6 foot, 247 pounds, and his college game, if his college game translates well to the NFL, he will be a real challenge for any defense to bring down. He likes to have the yards after contact. And I think that he is a true 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is that slasher, dasher, catch out of the backfield type of running back. I think A.J. Dillon, a lot more muscular, a lot more of a brute running back, could be a great complement to go hand in hand. But if he truly steps up and can take the bulk of the loads, or just even half of what Aaron Jones ran last year, it's not looking for Jones. It's not a running back type of league. Yes, they are essential to the success, but they don't really sign long-term contracts. I'm not looking at you, Derrick Henry. You're the exception to the rule. It'll be interesting to see how this one whole plays out. But where does AJ Dillon fall in the running back rotation? That's a huge question. And then we go down to the why, and the why got a little bit more clarity on Sunday in Brian Gutekunst's press conference. But my why is why hasn't Green Bay brought back Trevor Williams? Now, I am a fan of Trevor Williams, and it's not just because he is a veteran Packers player who's had many great seasons in Green Bay. Yes, he turned 37 in March, but last year he played all 16 games in Green Bay at the slot cornerback. He had 2 interceptions and 8 pass breakups, and his Pro Football Focus grade was 82.2 coverage on 504 snaps, and that was one of the best season grades that he's had in his illustrious career in the NFL. So The theme of tonight or the show or whenever you watch this is the Packers didn't draft a cornerback, but you have Jair and Kevin King on both of the edges playing lockdown. I love these guys. These seem like they could be the one of the best 1-2 cornerback combos in the league, especially if Kevin King can truly jump up and be more consistent this year. And then you have Jair, who's been ranked as one of the best cornerbacks in just his first 2 seasons. But there's plenty of opportunity for Chandon Sullivan. You have Josh Jackson, who's still hanging around on that roster. Kadar Hallman, who I've never been a fan of, but we'll see how that one goes. And even Darnell Savage could potentially come down and play slot cornerback if needed. Goody said on Sunday, and this is where the waters get a little bit murky because I feel like I've heard this before, but Goody said, I have great respect for Tremont and what he's done here. We're very aware of where he is. No updates at this time, but I have a lot of respect for what he brings to the table. It sounds like the typical Goody speech of veteran Packer players who mean a lot to so many individuals that he has no interest in bringing back. But I think it is a wait and see approach. If none of these guys that I mentioned before, like Sullivan, Jackson, Hallman, or, well, we don't have to worry about Savage, but if any of those guys can't truly step up or they can't find someone else to step up in that slot cornerback position, I think you have to bring back Trevor Williams. Again, 37. He is old for a slot cornerback, but at the same time, he did not miss a beat last season. He still wants to play, and if he still wants to play, you can bring him back to Green Bay for a pretty cheap contract and fill that void and bring some veteran leadership. I think it's exactly it just makes too much sense to me, but so many things make too much sense to me. So that's why I'm going to end the video, and those are my 5 questions. Who is going to step up at wide receiver? What did Green Bay do to improve the run defense? When will the offense start firing all cylinders? Where will AJ Dillon fit in the running back rotation? And why hasn't Green Bay brought back Trevor Williams? So thanks again for checking out the video. I'm going to take it down a notch, sign off on this particular clip. But again, on Friday, I will give you a more of a week in review look at training camp. Not a ton of actual practice highlights or coverage to dive into, but we're getting acclimated to the season. There will be more news and more news as the sands through the hourglass fall. Until that time, until next time, I will see you lovely people on the internet. Thanks for watching.